To talk to Rowdy Berry, a bullfighter, very well known in our parts of the woods, that is. Rowdy, first thing I want to know is, come on, were you born with the name Rowdy?
That is my given name.
There's got to be a story
Honest,
there.
Yeah, honest truth, yes. My mother was a big Clint Eastwood fan as a young bride, and anyway, his first major TV role was, those of you that can remember Rawhide, Rowdy Yates.
Oh, man.
So actually the nuns at the hospital in Bend there would not let her name me that till she was actually leaving the hospital with me to put it down on the birth certificate. So I call it farming. There's a lot of farmers out right here in our Columbia Basin that don't own a horse and have 300 head of mama cows.
Wow. Okay.
And they go out there and move them around with they lead them in with a hay truck type deal, and then catch whatever stragglers around with a motorcycle and a four-wheeler type deal. So, and if worst case scenario, they can call a cowboy that they know, and he can come rope whatever's got out, or been very maverick and astray.
But I'm thinking that there are real cowboys that are still working cattle out. They're non-fenced areas, right?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of guys right here in the Northwest that are cowboys and ride horses every day, saddle up and go, move cattle and work cattle and doctor cattle out off of a horse. And sometimes there's a lot of country around here that's too steep to ride a four-wheeler, and you've got a calf that's got a bad eye or something like that. You've got to doctor them out there. So it's a lot less stress to rope them right there and doctor them than it is to maybe driving 4 or 5 miles away from the herd to a set of corrals to work them. So it's a lot easier and time efficient, and a lot less stress on the animal itself.
So when we have county fairs or rodeos, that's when the cowboys come in. That's when we see them.
Oh yeah, well you see the rodeo cowboys. There's a lot of I want to say crossover between rodeo cowboys and ranch cowboys, but I know a lot of rodeo cowboys that have never spent time on a horse, or especially in the bull riding and the rough stock end, they might spend time on a bucking horse, but they couldn't ride a regular saddle horse
really?
to gather a cow.
Don't tell me that. That's like a secret, I
think. But then there's a lot of ranch cowboys that have never been on a bull or a bucking horse, or never roped competitively at a rodeo. There's some great ropers out there, and man, you go to a Brandon pen or need some doctor, and these guys can throw a loop, and but it's just two different scenarios and kind of two different ways of life.
Well, so you have made the transition from being a rodeo clown to a bullfighter. Why is that?
Well, early in our career, and I started out in the 80s, and at that time the rodeo clown was a bullfighter as well. You had to do comedy, and I didn't get into it to do comedy. I was attracted to the bulls and saving the bull riders and freestyling and running around bulls and getting my adrenaline fix that way. Well, as time went on, I got tired of wearing the makeup and being called a clown and wanting to go do something funny. We'd be at a PR deal, maybe at a grocery store, and they'd tell me to go do something funny to the lady down the aisle. Well, that's not me, if I'm a clown, but it was just out of place and out of character, and usually the things I did didn't turn out funny. So I just I thought, what, we wouldn't gain respect, because you talk to people, oh, it's just a clown. Did you see how high that clown got thrown last night? No, that actually was a man that broke his leg or whatever it was. That was actually, and he's an athlete and trains very hard at this, but he wears all that stuff. So people kind of put it in that perspective for me, and I started dissecting it. And you know what? I get rid of the baggy pants and the makeup, and then not long after that, it started, corporate sponsors started kind of coming in there, and I didn't wear the wild shirts. I wore a plain white shirt at that time, and the sponsorship really stood off of it, and things just kind of fell into place for me. And now you look in the PBR, they're very well, the corporate sponsor is a big part of the team. They don't wear makeup, and they're interviewed all through the broadcast. And in pro rodeo, you have guys that choose not to wear makeup a lot of the time, but sometimes they do out of tradition and different rodeos that they're at. So it's kind of there's still guys that wear makeup that just strictly fight bulls, but overall were different. And I don't want to take away from, like right here at this rodeo, we have JJ, who's one of the top entertainers in our country. And, I don't want to take away from him. And people think I'm a clown if I'm wearing makeup and I'm not trying to do anything. So.
All right. Well, that explains it for you. Hey, I don't know, people, if you realize it, but Rowdy is also a very serious artist. And we'll have a chance to talk with him about that coming up right after this break. Well, did you ever want to be a bull rider?
As a kid, I got on a lot of bulls, but I didn't ride them very often. So I thought as much time as I spent in the dirt, and I was very fast and strong-legged, and enjoyed the adrenaline even more then once I started kind of fighting them at the practice pen. Wow, instead of just being on them for 8 seconds, I get 30 minutes
if
or an
that.
hour. If that. I never was good enough to make it to 8 seconds. So I was 6 foot and 150 pounds back then, so that isn't really the typical bull rider build. So, no, so it just kind of evolved from there into bullfighting, and the key was the bull. I was drawn to bulls. They're magnificent animals, very athletic. The power that they have displayed, I've seen bulls do some awesome things over the years. And I've seen them clear an 8-foot sheet of plywood, 2 of them side by side. Nothing hit but the very back toes.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
That's scary though to watch that. But
it is. Yeah.
It's there. You're right.
When you realize, he's out in the crowd now.
Yeah, whoa.
But you're just in awe of, he just cleared this whole 8-foot sheet, So anyway, yeah.
All right, so here's that image. You're just describing that image of yourself. And then, I go on your website, which I think is rowdyberry.com.
Rowdyberry.com.
Yeah. And I see all of these images of your artwork. And I got to say, I'm blown away here. I'm blown away. It's beautiful stuff. It's really, really very nice artwork.
Well, thank you.
How does that come about?
I grew up in Wyoming as a younger child, and my mom would do artwork for being, I guess, short of money, so she'd paint paintings in the November snows and stuff for Christmas presents and things like that. And here you got a rambunctious boy running around the house terrorizing everything. So she'd put a paintbrush or a crayon or a pencil or something in my hand all the time, and always been a bit of a dreamer, and I'd spend all the time in school. Somebody, hey, draw me a picture of an elk, So instead of taking notes, I was drawing somebody a picture of an elk. And they'd buy me a pop afterwards or something, and hey, this is pretty cool. And I just was always, it took me somewhere else. And I did it for me for a lot of years. A lot of people didn't know I did art or painted or anything like that. And a friend of mine, he kept really encouraging me. No, you've got to sell it and show it, and I was afraid it was mine, and I didn't want it to become a job or something like that. And finally broke out and started doing that, I guess, out of injuries and stuff like that. When you have some downtime and you got a year sitting at home, you're kind of forced to look at other resources, and so kind of moved out the art a little more then.
What's your favorite type of artwork? Is it pastels, watercolor, what?
If you go to the Rowdy Berry Facebook page, you'll see more of my black background, which is pastels on black paper, and has a lot of negative space to it, but very bright and colorful. I really enjoy that, but the watercolors can be a challenge, and I enjoy that challenge as well. And then I've sculpted for a number of years and done some commissions there, but I guess in 07, 08 and the economy and those guys didn't quite come around as easily after that, and so it kind of forced me into doing more pastels and things like that.
Well, it's beautiful stuff.
Thank
very,
you.
very nice. So you're also involved in movies and being a stunt worker. Again, dangerous and crazy.
Yeah, it's always been just still tied in with fighting bulls.
Yes.
And my knowledge of the bulls, and I've had to, have bulls hit a fence. I was completely out of the scene, and then do other close calls with bulls. And then I've actually been myself in the arena fighting bulls in a number of films and commercials and things. So.
Well, tell me some of those films so we can go look them up.
21 and Over was the most recent one that I was supposed to take a hooking by a bison, and the bison was so tame that we couldn't do that, so we had to So I ended up being just running along beside him, and anyway, a younger kid kind of was on a jerk line. But did you hear about the Morgans? Was another major movie that I did. I spent 2 weeks in Santa Fe filming on that one, and there you can see my signature red and yellow Kansas City looking socks. And,
Oh, okay.
And my sunglasses. So you can spot me in that movie throughout that movie fairly well.
So you've been a rancher in the past, but you currently don't have a ranch, or you told me you lease it out?
A couple of years ago, my daughter's in basketball, and she was a freshman then, and I was missing ball games, and the ranch was really busy, and I have another ag cattle business called Anapro, and anyway, that was really taking off, and I was having to spend a lot of time up at the ranch with the cattle, and anyway, missing ball games and missing
That's,
different.
you said 60 miles away.
Yeah, it's 60 miles it's up on the Horse Heavens out of Mapton, and we live just south of town here in Kennewick. And anyway, so I was trying to decide that, and my wife said, well, Clay, she's only going to be here for 3.5 more years, and then Miles at that time was a couple years behind her, and it took me a little while to just figure that out, but I can sell the cows. I penciled it all out, and I could lease the ranch and still have some great income, but maybe not quite where the cattle were, but it isn't always about income. Sometimes it's about the way of life and the children, that